Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach.
And the consistency and the players know the patterns. But of course I'm aware that we need to be flexible sometimes.
You look what Thomas Frank has done over the course of 7 highly successful years, you can understand why Tottenham would be interested.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at @Stetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 259, and I imagine it will not be an enjoyable one. I've got Todd alongside of me to talk about whatever the hell that was on Sunday that we witnessed at the Emirates. TC, what is going on, my friend?
Well, any day, brother, any day that you can get together and commiserate after an utter shit show like that is a good fucking day. It's a good day to pool our collective sorrow and disgust and talk about what we do next, because that's what we do better than anything. So,
yeah, we're going to try and figure that out. The bat signal has been placed for Scott. We'll see if he's able to join. If not, we know he's got the Iowa State on his brain these days. I know that for sure. In fact, it was pretty funny. Yesterday during the game, I know he had to leave a little bit early to leave for an Iowa State women's basketball game, and he saw that Spurs had scored a goal in the second half, and he said, "Oh, how did we score?" When I informed him of how he scored, he did not believe me, which is understandable. But I told him that Richarlison scored from near midfield, and he said, "Nuh-uh." And I said, "No, I'm not kidding. That's actually what happened."
Yeah, that does sound like a legitimate joke you would make, though.
He chipped Raya from nearly midfield and put about the most accurate shot that I've ever seen Richarlison put together.
Well, it's incredible stuff. I think that's a great place to start. Let's get the positive.
Yeah, let's get the positive out of the way.
I love it. So I made the point that Richarlison has a better chance of scoring from there with his feet than he does within the 18-yard box.
It's not wrong.
And so, for me, as I'm thinking about that, it's like, of course, that's the goal that we get in this just calamity of a circus that we saw yesterday. Of course, that's the goal we score.
Yeah, and that, of course, made it 3-1. And my follow-up message to Scott shortly after there was, "Don't worry, things have still not changed. You're not missing anything." Because
this isn't a game we're going to win.
They did not change. Things did not change. Let's just dive in right away off of this, because obviously this is not the way you want to go into a North London derby. It's not the way you want to come out of a North London derby, and everything in between was just shit. It was utter and complete shit. Spurs were bad from jump. They did not improve throughout. It was really, really bad. I want to start with the decision to go with a back 3/5, because I think there's going to be a lot of talk about Thomas Frank over the next 30 or 40 minutes here, and I don't see this as a super defensive move. I think when people hear back 3/5, they think that this is being defensive, but there are ways to play front-footed football. I mean, hell, Spurs played front-footed football under Mauricio Pochettino, playing a back 3 for many, many years. There are ways to do it. Going about it in this way, with the midfielders that he put on the pitch in front of that back 3, in Paulinho and Bentancur, which we've been harping about all season, was a choice. And I'll be honest, initially, I kind of thought, okay, I understand playing Wilson Odobert in this position over playing Xavi Simons, because I think Xavi Simons is someone who needs more time on the ball and for Spurs to have more possession with the ball. And that is not something I saw Spurs going into the Emirates and having. So I understood the role that Odobert was going to be asked to play. But honestly, it didn't really look like anyone was asked to do anything other than hold on for dear life. And Spurs were not going to be able to hold on for dear life for much longer than the 30 minutes that they tried to do.
I don't really know, when you have two of the best one-on-one fullbacks in the league, in Udogie and Spence, why you would opt to and you know that Arsenal's approach is generally to beat you down with pressure and then force you to concede corners and then beat you on the corners. And you know that Gabrielle's not there, who's their number one corner threat. So if they just do what they normally do, you're going to put yourself in a decent position to be successful. I feel like this is what we did against PSG. And I feel like it would be easy for an Arteta-led team to go, it's what we did against City the first time. And I feel like it'd be easy for Arteta to go, they're going to sit in the exact same way and prepare for that. And I feel like Thomas Frank walked directly into that trap. And it's like, I don't want to go here too early. I just want to say that there were things about this that I could see from San Diego that it doesn't look like Thomas Frank saw walking into this match. It looked like his first North London derby.
Sure. I think that's an extremely fair comment. I do want to comment on Thomas Frank. I want to talk about the players first, though, because I think the thing that I almost said disappointed. I wasn't disappointed after this match. This match went about as well as I could have expected it to go, if I'm being completely frank. I wasn't disappointed. I was actually angry at some of the lack of effort that I saw, or just the confusion. And I guess some of that can go to coaching, but it looked like these players didn't have a clue as to what their role was or what they were doing. And there was not a lot of want to there from what I saw.
What I saw was tactical mismanagement. I saw the ball bouncing off of Richarlison. I saw Odegaard getting swallowed up in the midfield. I saw Polina, it's Radu Dragishin bad passing levels from Polina if he's hitting the ball any longer than 10 yards. And
hey man, he got an assist in this game. Let's give the credit where credit is due.
I mean, is that like the Jan Tongen versus for the Sonny Puskas Award goal?
Yes, that's exactly like that.
So, no, and I thought this game cried out for Brennan Johnson. If you're going to sit in, hear me out, if you're going to sit in, have the one guy that you chase over the top that can chase down balls and either cross it into the box, especially coming off the international break he had. I don't know how you look at this matchup and go, I'm going to sit in, but I'm not going to play Brennan Johnson for the long ball. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, to your point on specifically on Polina, I mean, I think that therein lies the biggest issue for me is when you're taking a midfield of Bentancur and Polina ahead of three center backs, you have Romero there to pass the ball, but no one else. And you're also taking, I kind of do understand why you would want to rotate fullbacks, but you're playing Spence at right back instead of Pedro Porro, who's another one of your passers. You have no one other than Romero to pass the ball forward from a defensive setup like this. So that becomes a really big issue, and it showed.
Well, when you run Bentancur out there as the partner to Polina instead of someone that's more designed to carry the ball forward. Now, Bentancur, to his credit, can retain possession and does a decent job arriving in the box on those, third man runs and things like that. When he's asked to, he is not a carrier of the ball. His center of gravity is too high. He's a little too slight. He gets knocked off it easy. That's not what he does. So now you've got two guys, he and Polina, that are not carriers of the ball. And oddly enough, this is the type of game that cried out, and I can't believe I'm about to invoke this name, but this is the type of game that cried out for an Yves Bissouma type performance, to just take the ball and move the ball forward and then spray it out to your wing backs in this match to actually have some offense. But again, his goal from damn near the parking lot aside, Richarlison was dross in this game. And it's, I feel like this is the dichotomy of Richarlison, right? I'm going to be shit for 65 minutes, and then I'm going to come up with a worldie and then be shit for another 20 minutes unless you take me off. It's, I appreciate the hustle and I appreciate the effort, but the end quality is not good enough. And we've had conversations on this podcast on numerous occasions to where I'm saying the exact same thing. And I really felt like that was on full display in this match on Sunday. Just the amount of balls into Richarlison where he either got bodied off the ball or the ball bounced off of him and we lost possession. It was like, so it's bad enough that you don't have any passers. It's bad enough that you're sitting in without an offensive philosophy. But the three guys that you have that can go forward can't seem to figure it out on the day. That makes it really tough. That's why you 0.07 XG on the day, Andrew.
Well, and again, when your best passer is your right center back and your best carrier from the defensive position is your left center back in Mickey Van de Ven, you have a problem. Like, you need other guys to be able to move the ball forward. And I think the word I want to come back to here is risk, because a man once said, you know, there's a big risk in not taking risk. And it didn't feel at all like this team wanted even to take a risk. That's kind of where I'm getting to with the players a little bit, because, and I get that this is partially a coaching thing. You need to drill into the players how to take that risk. But to me, this felt like players who were not willing to take a risk or were confused about who was supposed to be taking the risk when, and they just did not play cohesively. They did not play together. There are numerous instances, and look, we're recording this Monday night. I spent most of my Monday while I was working today looking at The Athletic, and The Athletic had multiple stories about just this instance of this throw-in shows why Spurs are not being progressive with the ball. This sequence of play, and there are so many instances where you can see the players on the pitch who need to make the decisions. You know, Thomas Frank can't go out there and move them around like chess pieces himself. The players need to have this drilled into them, that this is what you do with the ball and how you progress the ball. And none of them seemed to have a clue. They all seemed to be playing scared and not willing to take any kind of a risk.
But to what end, I guess? Because this is the reason why I'm like, well, yeah, what are they going to do with it? They're going to take it forward, and they're going to what? Who are they going to give it to? What are they going to do with that? You're going to pass it into Richarlison and hope it bounces off his ass and into the goal? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you hope you can put it high enough that he can jump. So, because if he's in the air, he's got a decent chance of scoring something, right? Like what is it that you're going to do? Are you going to look I don't know, man. I keep going back and forth on this, and it's like, I like Kudus and I like what he does, and I like Odegaard and I like what he does. But relying on the tandem of Odegaard and Kudus to get the ball to fucking Richarlison doesn't sound like a very worthwhile prospect for winning in the Premier League.
Well, I 100% agree with you, and I think that the big part of that problem is that the team set up to play with 3 attacking players and 8 of them behind the ball. Like, that is
I don't disagree. So then that goes back to my initial point.
Right.
That goes back to my initial point. Oh, agreed. But, I mean, okay, so we've lauded Thomas Frank's pragmatism and talked about, the time when, we came from a world of that's just who we are, mate, to now we're putting 8 behind the ball when we have no striker and no attacking midfielders. So it's like the pendulum has definitely swung to the other extreme in this instance, I feel. My biggest issue in comparing the two, and again, I'm not trying to go back to the Ange era. I think we've evolved past that. Mm-hmm. But my biggest issue with comparing the two is Ange did it with a swagger. And he did it with a belief in himself and a belief in the concept of team that he was building. Now, whether the tactics were right or not is not the conversation I'm having, but the concept of team. Okay? Thomas Frank gave them bulletin board material to the one guy that we should have fucking signed in the lead up to this season in the first fucking place. And then went out there and laid an absolute tactical stinker. And looked like he got beat up in an alley by Arteta and his goons, and they took his lunch money.
So I want to be really clear, too, about who I'm talking about when I talk about risk. I'm not talking about Ange. I'm talking about Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is the one. Right.
I'm talking about Frank as well.
And the comparison I get, and I don't even. I agree with you. We've done the Ange ball thing. We have, and I agree with you on the pendulum too. I think that I keep coming back to even the change that was made for the second half in bringing on Xavi Simons and taking off Kevin Danso and switching to a back 4. I think Spurs actually looked kind of worse in the second half than they even did in the
and
first.
They got smoked, Andrew.
So it's not as easy as, now we have an attacking midfielder on the pitch, because, one, we all know, and as I stated a little bit earlier, Xavi Simons is still getting used to playing in this league at this pace, at this intensity, with a lack of size as well. And he's not going to
and a lack of physicality.
That's what. Well, yes, size, physicality. However, all one and the same.
I've seen some big guys play small, and I've seen some
course.
small guys play big. And so,
But-
I thought Bruno Fernandes was not. I thought he was too slight to be effective in this league. And say what you want to say. He's had a pretty decent career,
of course.
But
I think the point I'm trying to make though is that it's not as simple as just bringing on the guy you signed this summer. And look, you brought up the other guy. Eze was great in this game, obviously, and we can all lament the fact that Daniel Levy sat on his hands this summer and didn't get the job done to be able to sign the player.
One final fuck you on the way out the door.
Of course, I get all of that, but I also don't really believe that if you would have substituted Eze into this game for Simons and had Eze on the other side, I don't know that it makes a huge difference because of still the way that this team is trying to play.
I hear you, but you start Eze instead of Odegaard, and I think it changes the game entirely. Because also, we don't have, for the first time since 2013 or 2014, we have no Son or Kane for this match.
Yeah.
And
first time in a North London derby for a long time.
We looked like a team without any stars. We looked like a team with no teeth, Andrew, and that's how we played.
It was the first hat trick in a North London derby since 1978, which is, I mean, for it to be him was...
Dude, the him in the first one at their place...
Yeah, it was poetic in all of the wrong ways.
Dude, after Thomas Frank said, who's Eze... Like, that's our fucking manager, bro. That's not some pirate looking fuck in the parking lot. That's our manager. And then I think that really played in for me. That really played into a lot of the hate that guy's getting right now. Not only did he look out of his depth tactically, he looked out of his depth in terms of leadership. The team looked wayward, as though they had no direction. His comments were wayward beforehand. And then afterwards, he went, oh, well, you must remember this team finished 17th last year. And it's like, brother, get properly fucked, right? Like, you can't come in here with that nonsense after laying that stinker of a tactical performance. You can't do it.
So I completely agree with you, and the manager's where I wanted to go next, because I'm certainly not going to be sitting here and saying, because I said it a few weeks ago, I said you've got to give this guy a season at the very least. But after you saw what you saw this weekend, and honestly you've seen what you've seen over the last handful of weeks, because it has not gone well. Like we started this thing out fairly well with some decent results, and this thing has, in the last month or so, has really gotten turned on its head in a kind of ugly way. And I do think that there is something to be said for, one, Frank's point about this team was 17th last year. Okay, fine. But also, they're dealing with an unimaginable injury crisis again, which is also a problem. But they also didn't bring in... I mean, I'm talking about... I continue to harp on the fact that Xavi Simons... Well, I'm going to continue to harp on the fact that Xavi Simons is just not a Premier League player as of yet. He may be long-term, but I'm not sure. They brought in pretty much one proven Premier League player in Kudus, who's been very good. But
he's been good. He hasn't been very good. He's been good. He's been flashy. But the end product, if you judge a winger, you judge a winger by their production. He has not produced.
And I also don't think there's anything around him, which I think is hurting. Like,
I don't disagree. It's no surprise that as soon as Dom Solanke went out, like, the wheels fell off of this fucking thing.
And Dom Solanke,
striker.
To your point last week, Dom Solanke tells The Athletic he's no longer putting a timeline on his return, which I've been saying for 2 months. I don't know why everyone else is just finding this to be news.
I think his ankle fell off and they don't want to tell anybody. Like, it's for the insurance money.
Truly, when people expected Solanke to just be out for a few days, I was like, what are you talking about? This team, from an injury standpoint, is giving you way less information than you think you have. And I've been saying the same stuff about Kulusevski. I think we all know Madison's not going to be back this season. I've been saying it about all these guys, and I'm frankly like I know Radu Dragusin got his minutes. Like there's so many bodies that are trying to make their way back but are not having any liftoff, and it is a real problem that this team's facing. So with all of these things combined, I sit here and say, yes, the manager has been put in a little bit of a pickle, but I don't know why it looks this bad, because it really shouldn't look this bad.
So I think that it warrants a measured kind of big picture view for Thomas Frank. And I'd like to, and that's really hard to do after the shellacking that we took.
Well, yeah. When you face what you just faced, it's really hard to sit around and say everything will be okay.
And the specifics around it, and how every domino fell in their favor, and we just look like complete and utter morons.
We set the dominoes up for them. That's the point.
It's just what I'm fucking talking about, brother. And it's like, this is going to go into the lore of the Saul Campbell's and the, winning the league at White Hart Lane and this is just another in the notch of the belt that they beat us with, and I fucking hate it. And so, now I look at this situation and I go, the biggest part about all of it is all of these wounds were self-imposed. All of these wounds were self-imposed. And so now it's like, okay, well, what do you do from here? How do you take a measured, big picture look at this? Well, is it just dumb fucking luck that all the attacking players that we had got injured, and then all the attacking players that they brought in are either ineffective or also got injured? Like, because we didn't not spend money, right?
Oh, no.
Tell,
it's not
40 million, Richarlison, 60 million, Kolo Muani, however much we're paying for that guy. None of those guys are doing the things that we've paid them to do. So it's like fine, we have a proven producer problem in our offense right now because our proven producers are on the shelf.
Well, not only that, but the real proven producer left for Bayern Munich. Like, that's the other problem.
Well, okay, and I mean,
and LAFC for that matter.
And crying over exes is understandable and tough. There's still a chance that Harry falls in love with us anew and comes back, but I'm not holding my breath, nor should you. But yeah, it's what we're dealing with, in the sense that it took us from 2019 or 2020 until 2025 to replace Christian Eriksen. We haven't replaced Harry Kane yet, and he left, just a few years ago.
Well, and I know what
we haven't
people are
replaced Son.
Right. And I know what people are going to say is these are hard players to replace. Yes, but you're Tottenham Hotspur. You need to go out and have ambition and do these things.
Well, it's a little circular for the folks that have listened to this before, but I happened to go on Transfer Market this week, Andrew, and I was wondering, dude, what the hell? How come? I was reading about, not having Harry or Sonny for the first time in a decade plus and all of this, and I was like, okay, well, let's go and let's check it out. And I went and I looked at the, the market value that Transfer Market has associated with the players. And the number one player for us is obviously Christian Romero. But he's only listed at 70 million. And you look at that and you go, okay, that's solid. But then as you go down the list, the next three players are all defensive or, wingers or whatever, or wing backs or whatever, right? We don't have teeth in the offense. We have James Maddison, we have Kulusevski, and we have Dominic Solanke as proven Premier League producers. And none of them are fit, and nobody else has been able to step up to the challenge. And it's is that on recruitment? It's Thomas Frank can only work with what he's got. The players can only get in the position that they can get into. They have to finish. He can't coach Richarlison to have a better touch. You're a professional football player in the Premier League. Your touch is your touch. You do the best you can with what you got. But some people are blessed with great touch, and some people are Richarlison. And that's just where we're at. So it's well, what do you do with that? How do you overcome that challenge? I don't know from a Thomas Frank standpoint. And that's why I say you take kind of that holistic view and you say, is this a recruitment issue? Are we not recruiting the right players, Andrew? And I think ultimately it comes down to a front office issue in the past, as we've mentioned, which is the wage structure at Tottenham Hotspur is not one that attacks, a $100 million talent. So I think if we're able to address that first problem in January and bring in a splashy signing and not on loan and some bullshit, but like go out and sign Rodrigo or somebody like that. I'm just putting that into the ether for you. Or, make a little cheeky signing of Samu from Porto, right? Like just make a splash.
So I'm going to
guess. That's the first thing.
I'm going to yes and you, because I do think, yes, and I think January will be a thing. Like, I think Spurs are going to go out in January and do something. I think they have to do something. There's no sitting on this. There's no sitting around and waiting for these players to get back from injury or for things to just magically get better. But the yes and part of that is it still can't look this bad with these players, because these players are not scrubs. These players are not shitty players. These are good, talented footballers who are not being put in a good position to get anything out of these games.
I get you, but there's no one in our team right now that's available that has scored double-digit goals in the Premier League, Andrew. The goals have to come from somewhere. Like you can't like want to this, right? You either have this or you don't have this. And I think, and that maybe I may have just disrespected Richarlison right there. To be fair, he may have scored double-digit goals in the Premier League for Everton, but not for us. And it's been tough to watch our offense try to operate without the horses.
Well, not only that, though. I mean, I think that tactically, look, this guy was brought in as a master tactician who not only showed a little bit of pragmatism, which we were lacking from the previous manager, but would also be willing to change things and adapt to who the opponent is. And look, coming out in the Super Cup, we saw that against PSG. We saw good, and there wasn't, he had basically the same players he does now. It's not like there's a massive difference in who he had then to who he has now, looking back at earlier. Okay, so this all can't come down to one player, though.
What I can say is that the chances that Richarlison has fucked off in the box, Dominic Solanke scores, and we had a whole conversation on the pod about this when we signed Solanke, and about how he converts at the highest level in the league, chances within the 6-yard box, and if the ball comes into him, he converts. And it's something where Richarlison just fucking doesn't do that, man. And there's been games in this season in the Premier League, we win if Richarlison finishes, that we didn't win, and we either took a draw. We likely took a draw, or there weren't many where he fucked up and we lost. But we definitely took a few draws that Richarlison should have won for us and didn't. And I think Dominic Solanke, if we have, let's say we have 8 more points than we have right now. That completely, or let's say 6 more points than we have right now. That, turn 3 of those draws into victories, right? Like, that completely changes the look of our season.
Of course
it does. That completely changes the look of anybody's season. Of course it does, right? But that boils down to converting chances that Tell and Richarlison and, Odebear have not converted. Just plain and simple, have not converted.
If you're sitting on 6 more points right now, you're in second place. I get that.
I said what I said. Andrew, I said what I said.
But here's the thing. I'm looking, and it's not just Premier League games. It's in the Champions League as well. I'm looking at certain instances, and we can go back to the Bournemouth game where we all know Frank got the tactics wrong, and he, I wouldn't say admitted it, but kind of leaned to noting that, yeah, we fucked that one up a little bit. Okay, the Bournemouth game is one example of it. Go back to the Wolves game where they drew Wolves. That was a game where you need to, Wolves have 2 draws on the season. One of them is against us. They don't have a win.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's saying something, okay?
And those were missed
Wolves are
chances.
not good. The game right after that, going away to Bodo Glimt, where you just played defensively the entire match. You did not go there to try and win the game. You went there to try and get a point. And by the way, you did get your point. Kudos to you. But you should have gotten Monaco, another example. You just went there and decided to play too pragmatic. This is the other part about this manager that I'm trying to come to grips with a little bit. how long is a manager with this much pragmatism actually going to last at this club where a fan base cries out for free-flowing, front-footed, attacking football? That is the mantra of this club, to dare is to do, and we're not daring, much less doing at all right now.
Someone said that I saw online said it's like Mourinho without Kanan's son. And that hurt a lot.
Because it's so true.
I know. First off, I have to say, I completely soiled and sullied Richarlison's good name. Apologies to him. He did actually score 11 goals for us in his second season, and did so a couple of times for Everton as well. However, many of those were the ball hitting him and it ricocheting into the goal. You will not convince me otherwise. To your very point, Andrew, the whole idea around this was pragmatism with the same level of quality should equal success. And at least what I've seen to this point in time, I don't know about you, but what I've seen is a lack of quality and a lack of front-footed football. And when you have those two things together, you're Brentford. And this isn't Brentford. And it's one of those things where, you remember when, like, Chelsea got Graham Potter in there, and he was in there for, like...
A minute
and a half. And they were like, oh, this is a bit much for you, isn't it, bud? Enjoy Sweden.
Does this feel like that to you?
I really, really does. It feels as though it's not the football part. It's not the football part. It's, you know how, like, in the NFL, some coaches are great coordinators, but they're shithead coaches?
Sure.
This feels very, very similar to me. I feel like the lights are a little too bright on Thomas Frank right now. This is his first season in Champions League. This is his first season in a North London derby. This is his first season in a top six club where his quotes are played all over the place.
So I get what you're saying.
And no disrespect to Brentford, but we're not in the same category.
No, but this team right now, this Spurs team, is not even playing to the level that Thomas Frank had at Brentford.
Well, yeah, I mean,
when
that was
they
the
were
end
flying.
of the project. That was the end of the project. That guy
Sure.
took them up from the championship.
And
he was like there for 9 years, 7 years.
I'm having a little bit of trouble balancing what you're saying, because you're saying that there's not enough quality players on this team, but also this guy's out of his depth. So
this is the conundrum, right? It's because he doesn't, like, no one cares who's injured. They care that you got smoked 4-1 at Arsenal at the weekend. So there's that part of it. The other part of it is we were super excited to have him work with our Archie Grays and our Matthias Tells, because he's a developer of young talent. And so and there's Xabi Simmons and the Wilson Odebears, right? And the Kudus coming off of the second, like, we were excited.
All of them.
The Kolomowanis of it, like, we were excited to have him mold and work with this young talent, and they're either hurt or the pragmatic approach that he's taking until we get our proven Premier League producers back has helped us tread water, which it feels like was his plan. Let's get points where we can in these matches when we don't have our horses, and then in the second half of the year, you know, your Solankis and your Kulusevskis are back, and you've hopefully bolstered the squad in January. And it's just we're looking a little fucking ragged as we're coming into the thick of it here, bud. So again, it feels to me, especially, dude, that as a who comment is just, that's like, I know he's being Danish and glib, like, I get it, but it didn't sit. It didn't sit well.
No, of course not. And honestly, I know there's been reporting today from your best pal Matt Law that, you know, that they're gonna that the Lewis family is gonna take the long-term approach here, and that nothing rash is going to happen. But if I'm being honest with you, over the next week and a half, maybe even less than that, if this team doesn't get some fucking points on the board, I do think a head might roll, and I think it could potentially happen. I'm not calling for it. I'm not saying it'll definitely happen. I just think that the possibility is there, and it's a little bit, well, it's not a little bit unnerving. It's very unnerving because I don't know where you go if you move on. Like I don't think it's a good idea to fire a head coach when you don't have a replacement lined up.
We go early on Xavi. That's the only thing we can do, and I don't like it. And I think it's risky, and I don't. The way that we set up this project is to give Thomas Frank time, and I don't think that we can. We knew that there would be rocky points in this season. There's rocky points in every season. We knew that. This rocky, this early, we did not expect. These amount of injuries, we did not expect.
Yeah.
I don't expect us to get any points in Paris. I think it's silly to go there and think we're going to, especially after whatever the fuck I just watched on Sunday. But right. I think you're right. If we don't get any points at home against Fulham, I mean, I don't know. But see, the other thing is that it's really early in the season. If you don't, there's not a, what are you going to bring in, Sam fucking Allardyce or something, right?
This is what I mean. That the team is not fighting a relegation battle right now. It's not.
No, it's like, and they're treading water, Andrew. They're treading water. So, like, the whole thing is if you can keep us in the top half of the table, we can make a legitimate charge in Europe in the second half of the season. Like, and I'm not saying, or legitimate charge at Europe in the second half of the season. And if you finish, fifth, or you finish fifth and you get in the Champions League, sweet. You finish sixth and you get to go to the Europa League, good. We'll win that bitch again.
Well, and this is the thing. Through 12 games in the Premier League, Spurs sit ninth. But 3 more points and they would sit fourth. And they're still 7 points clear of even sniffing relegation. So, like, they are in especially when you're taking the context of what they were last year and everything else.
I'm not taking the context of what they were last year. They were European champions last year, and the year before that under Ange, they were 5th. So don't tell me that team, all of a sudden, he got found out and the wheels fell off. We got completely crushed with injury, and it totally changed the complexion of that game. So I'm not sitting here telling you that we were fucking Southampton last year, or shout to them, they're actually doing pretty well right now. But, like, we were fucking Leicester last year, because we weren't.
I'm just saying that I think that context is important because it feels like the walls are caving in right now, and I don't think they are, but I think they can, which is like I don't think they are yet, but you can see the cracks already starting to form, and unless you get some spackle out pretty quickly, you might have a problem on your hands.
The spackle in the form of what? I
guess. And that's the problem.
And I think the reason why, again, it goes kind of back to the coaching piece is that, like, I don't see what's he gonna do.
Well, you've got Paris coming up this week, which, again, we saw earlier this summer, but that was also a PSG club that was coming off of no summer because they were in the Club World Cup. You take with all the grains of salt.
We had no business losing that match, and you can't tell me any different.
Of course. And they played it to a draw, fine. All the caveats involved with whatever. But, like, are you going to go to Paris on Wednesday and try to do exactly what you just tried to do against Arsenal? Because you're going to get run over if you do that, number one. And then you mentioned it's Fulham on the weekend at home, where the form in that building has been absolutely dreadful. And then, of course, after that, it's another trip to St. James Park, which doesn't ever go well. And then and then it's a return home to face a Brentford team, which you think the pressure will be on if you are rolling into that, having not shown anything in the last 3 weeks. Like, that's it can, I'm just saying that the cracks in this foundation can start to really, really crumble if things don't get spackled over really quickly here. And again, what are you using for that spackle? I don't know, but something needs to be figured out, and quickly.
Dane Scarlett, I'm saying
something. It's bad, man. And the injury stuff to me too. I continue to harp on the fact that that's not getting better quickly. Like, it's just not.
No, it's not. And truthfully, the only solace in this that I can take is that, especially after a brutal weekend like we had in the footballing sense, as an LAFC fan, to have Sonny single-handedly pull us back into the match and then miss his penalty after we should have won that game 4 times in extra time and then to wake up the next morning and take this freaking Eze shellacking was just not fun.
Not the weekend.
After a brutal weekend like that, the ray of sunshine that I can look at and be thankful for is that at least we are not Manchester United and a Manchester United podcast, because the embarrassment that I saw today at Old Trafford was hilarious and sad at the same time.
When I tell you I was wondering what the hell was going on because I saw Everton had gone down a man and then realized how that happened and then realized that United still lost that match, I can assure you that yes, at least it isn't that.
If you haven't watched the highlights of those particular incidents set to the Benny Hill theme song, you are doing yourself a disservice, sir.
Go check that out for sure.
It's fantastic.
Well, listen, the other bright spot is that Spurs women continue to grow and continue to win matches, put together clean sheets, all those things. They went on the road to Bristol City in the League Cup yesterday, Sunday, and got a 1-0 victory. This was a match that they only really needed to get a draw in order to advance, but Martha Thomas got her first goal of the season in her first start of the season, a well-worked goal. Spurs just kind of came out and did their thing, and they've been doing this thing. This was not, obviously the competition is what it is. Bristol City's in WSL 2. This is not, but they had to go out and get the job done. They did advance to the quarterfinals of the League Cup. Got that done. We also saw a Molly Bartrip sighting off the bench. We saw a Kit Graham sighting off the bench. So getting a little bit of rotation involved there as well. We do not yet know who the opponent is in the quarterfinal. That draw happens tomorrow, Tuesday, as we're recording this. And on the women's side of things, they're heading into an international break now. So Spurs women will not be back in action until December 7th at home against Aston Villa. So we'll see. But all good things on the Spurs women front as they just kind of continue to grow. We also talked last week about this potential signing coming in January, Senia Gopset, and the club went ahead and announced that deal last week. That is a done deal. She's in the building. She obviously cannot play until January, but is able to kind of get acquainted with her new teammates now. Of course, this is a player that already has played under Martin Ho at Brann. She comes over from Brann. It's a record deal for the Norwegian League. It is a third straight time that Spurs have now broken the transfer, their transfer fee on the women's side of things after signing Tinka Tanberg and Toka Kogo earlier this summer. So I have nothing but thumbs up for Spurs women right now. I know that they're not Chelsea, they're not Man City, they're not Arsenal, but they are at least, it looks like, trying to make some strides. And Venkatesham, I think when he came in, we all thought, all right, let's see what he can do with this women's program. And so far, slowly but surely, I think we are seeing signs that this can get better.
They have an identity. And you see that in the way that they play, and you see that in the rotational pieces. I think that that's a big difference maker, is when you see the rotational pieces come in and pick up right where everyone left off. Like that's a big plus that everyone's buying in and moving forward towards the same goal. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and another midfielder coming in, which I think is a player who can get minutes, because there is still a little bit of a need for being able to feed Beth England and Tinka Tanberg and Martha Thomas when she's on the pitch and get those goals rolling. So excited to see how Gopset can come in and make an impact. And I do think it's especially important that she get in now and get acquainted ahead of being able to actually play the games in January. So we'll see how that turns out. As for the rest of it, as I said, this week, I mean, come on, man. We can't be feeling confident about this week. I'm honestly, of course, I'm not feeling confident about PSG on Wednesday for the men in the Champions League, but I'm also really not confident in hosting Fulham on Saturday either.
I don't want to talk about the Fulham match. You're not going to make me do it. What I am going to say, however, is if we play like we played this weekend, it's going to be an embarrassment. But I've already planned for us to lose this game in PSG in terms of like the accounting of Champions League points. Already planned for us to lose this match.
Well, who would even at the start of the
sane,
season? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I imagine most sane Spurs fans did. So you go here, you take your medicine, you realize it was a shit week, you rotate, you go home, you try to, make sure Ryan Sessegnon doesn't score a fucking banger on us, and don't piss anybody, don't carve Marco Silva's mom and name fucking Thomas Frank in the lead up to this match, and we might actually be all right.
We shall see.
I don't know, man. I don't know, brother. It's at this stage, we're in the suck. So we just have to hang on for dear life until January and hope that we're above relegation. And I know that sounds dire and dramatic, but I don't see where the help is coming from based off of the current players that we have in the squad. Now, if you see something I don't, I'm certainly open to it. But based on the conversation we've had over the last 45 minutes, I don't think that it's there.
And that's the problem. And that's the big problem is I think it has to come tactically. And I'm a little skeptical that it will. So we kind of just have to face that fact and hope for the best. Buckle up. That is going to do it for this edition of the Tottenham Depot. A lot to be thankful for this week. Happy early Thanksgiving to everyone in the States. Obviously, a lot of just gratefulness. Grateful for the listeners and grateful for my compatriots here in TC and Scott and Caroline and Dakota and everybody. Very, very grateful. Be sure to check out our episodes on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Tottenham Depot and leave us a rating and review. I would be thankful for that. If you could go do that, leave us a rating, a review on your podcast app of choice to help spread the word about the show. And you can follow us all on the socials at Tottenham Depot. For TC, I have been your host, Andrew, and this has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.